I'm going to ask for assistance. It's really going to be impossible for me to speak any further with coal miners on my own. Thabi, where are you? Come, join me. But first, once you're a carbon miner, you just mine carbon. So if the diamond price collapses, you jump ship, you go to coal. I don't know if Mr. Moses Madondo needs any more introduction. He's the soon-to-be, I think, still soon-to-be, designated. Can't wait for the moment as next CEO of Thungela. Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much, Bernard.
Because this is his coming out party. He's no longer in
that's
the.
right.
He's no longer
framed it well.
He's no longer in the diamond stuff. He's in coal. He's gonna say a few words, and then he'll join us for a conversation where the real questions will come.
No, thank you, and thank you for indulging me there, Bernard. Much appreciated. Good morning, distinguished guest colleagues, investors and partners and supporters. I'm really honored.
I'm just calling bullshit on that supporter part.
Is it already gone red? Oh, well, that was too early and too quick. What would we do without it, right? I'm really honored to address you this morning. Of course, Bernard, let me congratulate you and thank you for the Joburg Indaba, of course, with you and the team, and all of those who sponsor and support for creating and sustaining this platform. I think it's very important for mining leaders. As we've seen in the past day and a half, the value that comes out of the conversations, we continue to benefit from them. So really, congratulations to you. And of course, we must acknowledge the Indaba has always been a good platform for real candid conversations. And we probably don't acknowledge you enough for what you do and setting an environment where we can be comfortable and actually do this. So it's really a useful voice, opportunity for us to put and share a few of our words. And certainly for me, as an incoming CEO of Thungela, I'm excited and to be able to add my voice into coal as well. Of course, I follow on a man who's been dubbed the evangelist of coal. I don't promise to be the evangelist of coal, but so please also allow me to just acknowledge July. I'm not sure if he's still in the room. I know, of course, on Friday evening we was acknowledged. I just want to also acknowledge for his exceptional career and contribution to the mining industry and all of those who've benefited from the work that he's done over the years. And of course, congratulate him for his induction into the Mining Hall of Fame. I think, July, you are indeed a worthy recipient, and certainly in my eyes, you are a giant among the giants that have worked in our industry and made a difference. So please give him a round of applause. I know that some of you have not been around. Ben, your time will come. It sounds like you did set your story with Bernard. I'm not sure how that works. I'm happy that I'm not having to try and aspire to that. I can say with confidence, to quote a phrase, we stand in the shoulders of giants, and as a result, we can see further. And I think July has delivered that in tons, and in terms of his support for coal, and getting most of us to understand that this commodity is still very important in the world and very necessary. Okay, so hopefully you understand why I wanted to stand up and talk. Before I get abuse from Bernard. I see Thabi, you've also come up, so I'll get twice the abuse. Today I want to say a few words, talk about the importance of coal and its place in the broader energy landscape, driven by demands for human development and economic growth. What I really want for you to take away in what I'm going to say is that Thungela, we still believe that coal is required for energy resilience, industrial competitiveness, and importantly, I think this is not said enough, for the long arc of human development, of course. It's a long arc because some are here and some are there, and the progress needs to continue and the march to advancement continues, sometimes at a pace that is fast. The truth is the world needs energy, and coal remains the cornerstone to meet that energy demand. It's a fact. I do as I say that, maybe want to frame a question. So what are the long-term fundamentals driving the demand for coal and keeping Thungela invested in coal? This is the thesis for my short speech this morning, is that coal remains robust. The demand for coal remains robust. Global coal demand reached another record high in 24, and 2024 is reported by the International Energy Agency at 8.8 billion tons. It's a high number. Here's an important fact. These record levels, have been consistently broken the past 10 years. Consistently. And peak coal continues to shift out. It gets cold and it shifts out. In fact, same IEA predicts that global coal demand is set to plateau at these high levels over the next couple of years, as they generally do. But 5 years ago, it would be worth noting that plateau was set at 7.2 billion tons, and we're at 8.8. Read the importance of those statistics in what we should think is what is to come. We know that existing coal-fired power stations, as it is true in South Africa, are staying in service longer than originally planned, and that there's still a lot of new build that's continuing to come into the space, and it's coming at pace in the last few years. So when we look at the global trends, we see that coal continues to have a significant role in developing economies. The increase in demand for coal in the East more than offsets the reduced coal demand in the West. It's known. China, India, and a number of the Southeast Asian countries remain largely dependent on coal, and as a source of energy, one can argue ever increasingly so. In 24, again, we saw a high level of construction for new coal-fired power plants in China, following, of course, the resurgence in licensing, both in 22 and 23. India has also saw a record high approval of coal-fired power plants permitting, after a multi-year slowdown that was seen before that period. As a result, last year, 34 out of the 43 gigawatts of power plant commissioned, coal-fired, were in India and China. This year, a further 26 gigawatts have been commissioned already between those two countries. So, I don't think I need to make an even bigger case here, Bernard. But nonetheless, further, the surge in the growth and development of artificial intelligence, as Ben has already indicated, data infrastructure, electric vehicles, green industrialization, all of this is fueling a new demand for energy, and intensively so. This new demand, coupled with long-term imperative for human development and the need to electrify the developing world, requires energy that is abundant, affordable, and reliable. Keeping the world really hooked on coal. So I can say without contradiction, coal has been and remains the bedrock of energy generation. Why? As I said, it is an affordable, reliable, and abundantly available energy source. So I must, of course, clarify that you don't misunderstand me or get me wrong on this. Like most of you, I believe that as globally energy demand increases, the world needs to develop greener sources of energy at pace to meet the important objectives of decarbonization. This, too, is what I want to say includes coal. The irony of the energy transition, of course, is that the construction of renewable energy infrastructure, including the production of solar panels, turbines, batteries, and we can name them, all necessitate the use of thermal coal today to meet that transition. As I heard somebody say yesterday, all of these technologies is not as green as we suggest that it is. Yeah?
That sounds like Ruslat.
Yeah, it was Ruslat. It was Ruslat. Of course, he tells it like you, right, Bernard? So to be clear, today the world does not have affordable, fully scaled substitute to replace coal for energy. The focus, therefore, should be on how we get this coal energy cleaner. In addition, lest we forget, geopolitical shocks have triggered a renewed global energy security concern. From the onset of the war in Ukraine to the rise of the trade tensions because of the shifting US tariff regimes, this has introduced renewed economic policy uncertainty and, of course, weighed on global growth forecasts. These factors have created short-term volatility in demand and disrupted traditional supply patterns, forcing countries to rethink energy strategies and accelerating domestic efforts. Yeah? It has become clear that countries no longer want to depend on a single source or origin of energy to meet their economic and social agendas. But as we think about the market today, we must not mistake short-term demand softness for structural change in the market, which is largely really, as I indicate, driven by the effects of geopolitics. But even in this context, we can expect long-term energy demand to continue. Obvious, the sky is blue, I know. In many markets today, we know demand is rising faster than new supply can be brought online, especially the other sources of energy. So, what is happening on the coal supply side? I've covered a lot on the demand, as you probably would have understood from what I said. The Agency of Climate Action has led to significant shifts, obviously, in policy and funding, particularly from global institutions that make investment in coal increasingly difficult. Financing is a constraint. Policy frameworks are tightening.
You better acknowledge the old man.
I have to, sorry, Minister. Must I do your job?
Do my job.
Minister,
nice
welcome. It is our pleasure to have you join us. Thank you. Can we give the Minister a round of applause? Thank you, Minister. We appreciate it. We know, obviously, in coal, we love you. I had to pause and make that moment. Okay, must I continue? He's keen to get me questions. I'm trying to stay as long as possible here so that I don't get as many questions.
The original coal dinosaurs joined the coal conversation.
And this has become, of course, the operating environment for coal. It's a new norm, right? Resulting in a lack of new build programs, and this is favoring, of course, consolidation of existing coal assets. So to meet the growing demand, more investment in coal is clearly required, as it becomes abundantly clear, of course, that other energy sources are unlikely to rise to the challenge and the demand that's required to meet all of the development goals that we need to meet. Here's an interesting fact, and you all have seen it and have had it. Lloyd's of London and BlackRock in the US, we are told, have abandoned some of their climate commitments and have gone back into supporting the fossil fuel sector. FutureCoal has also emphasized the role of coal in energy security and continues to advocate for increased and equal financing for coal. These moves clearly signal the importance of coal in the global economic agenda. This is why energy security must remain central to the global conversation on the just energy transition. The world should recognize and accept the enduring role of coal in the energy mix and align energy choices with the needs of people, especially in the developing world. Unless this imbalance is addressed pragmatically, the world will find itself short of supply, with real consequences for energy security and the ability to develop economies. At Thungela, as I close, we understand this. We have recently invested 5 billion rands in the new supply, notably Zibulo and Edel's collieries, which produce high-quality coal. But also we continue to invest in our gas development options. In South Africa, coal also remains the backbone in the energy mix and accounts for approximately 80% of the energy generation. Our power stations provide the essential base load to keep our economy running on the abundant domestic coal, seen as a guarantor of energy independence and security, of course. So as I conclude, let me also address a common misnomer. much like the forced conclusions that coal has little role in the energy transition that might have prevailed heavily in the last while. One of the most overlooked realities that in the human and development discourse is the reality that modern life is impossible without mining, right? It's a fact, right? I'll go as far as saying, of course, it's an uncomfortable truth in some sectors because, of course, mining has been dubbed dirty, right, for the longest of time, for right reasons in some cases, but in many cases because people don't fully understand some of the great things mining does. Sadly, the energy transition has faced the same challenge as what you've heard me say today, which required a reset. Thankfully, as I've also indicated, we are beginning to see this necessary change, Bernard. So for those of us who may still be uncertain, for the rest of you, I know you sounded like I'm telling you that the sky is blue. I trust that it has become clearer that the long-term fundamentals of coal remain true, and our reasons to continue to invest in coal are not misguided, but informed. Furthermore, that you can see that in all these contexts I've referenced, coal remains a stabilizing force that requires a balance between ambition and availability, between transition and inclusion, and between long-term goals and immediate realities. It is a fact that as the world accelerates towards decarbonization, it will require more mining, including mining of coal. What is important for us as miners, and those who are invested in mining, and those who benefit from mining, is that we do this responsibly. And this is what, of course, we do at Thungela. We are in coal business because the world still needs coal. So we are customer focused. We're not doing these things because, we like you, when you arrived first in the mines, like to look dark, and although we enjoy that too, the coal we mine, and the practices we employ contribute to the energy security, economic growth, and the upliftment of communities where we operate. So, as we say in Thungela, for a shared future, we are committed to responsibly create value together. Thank you.
Thank you. That's the gassy one. I'm very tempted to put a poll up and say, do you guys think he's ready to take over or not? But, I think that would be unfair. Yeah. So why don't we start with nice questions from you, Thabi, and then I will come in at the back with a few nasty ones.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. I think, as you were speaking, you spoke a lot about, coal remaining in the cornerstone of the future of energy, affordable energy, and you also spoke a lot about, the fact that, what we need to solve for is clean coal, right? What does that mean? What does that look like for you?
So I think we've seen, it means a number of things. Of course, the obvious and immediate ones that we know, and this work that has already been progressing, even in South Africa. But those results have been seen immensely in China. We, of course, need carbon capture and storage, and in some cases, utilization of that capture. And we've seen that work really progress immensely. I think China already has 50 of these units. Yeah. And in the recent history, we've seen the costs, because cost was prohibitive for many times, continue to improve quite drastically. I think the cost now is reported to be at 50% from when these technologies were being considered and started. So, of course, that's on the one side in terms of supply. On the other side, of course, we've seen another progression in terms of higher, more efficient, low emissions plants. Again, this development has happened across the world, but of course, most of our product going to the east. In China, again, we've seen those come at scale, some of those power plants, showing exceptional efficiency improvements. The fact is, 1% improvement in a power plant amounts to 2% improvement in terms of carbon emissions. Sure.
Sure.
And so the effect of the improvements that we've seen is really important. I think those numbers go up to 30, sometimes even 40% in terms of that efficiency improvement. So you can see the scale of the impact of that. So for coal and for the world that will depend on coal for the longest of time, in spite of the predictions, the truth is we're still going to need it. That needs to be the focus. That needs to be what we drive. And it's exciting that a lot of that is already in place. Of course, we need to continue to work on other opportunities to make sure that we fast track and move towards decarbonizing the world.
Sure.
And those options go into other areas, of course, in terms of
Let's
what we
still
plan.
settle him in. Another
Yeah.
nice question before I get to the
No, I
audience
mean, I think
questions.
just to build on that, obviously technology is key to being able to realize some of those gains. Just your view or Thungela's view around the pace at which technology is advancing and evolving to support decarbonization. Do you see that the pace is at the right level, or is there a need for more advanced technology to be brought to market to support?
Yeah, I think maybe the third one I haven't spoken to is advancements in terms of even mining operations.
Sure.
In terms of the technology that we continue to implement and apply in that environment. I think coming into Thungela, I saw some exceptional improvements that the guys have done in terms of the efficiencies in their plants. And I mean, doing those things is important because it not only just improves our intensity in terms of carbon, but also actually makes our businesses more profitable. And so I think, of course, we know capital flows where it's easy and it goes into where the returns are going to be good.
Yes.
So when we do those right things, the efficiency and the speed at which technology advancement happens will come. We know that, of course, the world is continuing to progress fast in some of these technologies, AI and all of this, how we manage data. All of that allows us to see efficiencies and improvements come through.
Yeah.
And you've had me reference some of the improvements that have been seen in China.
Yeah.
And so I think when we all accept, which is what the thesis of my story, if all of us in the world accept that it's unlikely that we're going to decouple ourselves from coal, then all of us probably need to recognize that more investment into getting the technologies that will allow us to decarbonize, but have this security of supply, I think is probably going to be the driver, an important driver.
So I want to go to two areas because although the poll indicated that this is a coal audience, 80% of the people here think like you and Minister Mantashe that coal is fantastic.
Yeah, I think you need to give it to
There are
him,
a few others, and we'll get to those questions. But David Mackay wrote in end of June, Thungela, the coal mining success no one expected.
Yeah.
But that was his success. The questions now is about the share price. It's downward trend.
Yeah.
Under your leadership, how will you turn this around? So it's difficult to take over such a clear success at a time when, that's the boss.
Yeah.
So talk about the challenges as a listed
yeah.
company, share price. What are you going to do?
So I think the team in July have done an exceptional job in setting a business that has become an exceptional platform in terms of where can we take the business and where we want to go with the business. I think this business is strong. It's got capacity in the people who are in the business, in the systems, in the way that they do mining. And that has been proven by what they've been able to do. Go into Australia, buy and sham, and make a success of that business, turn it up, 30% improvement and still going. And deliver projects on time, on cost, and continue. I think it's a business that has got capacity in it. So if you ask me, what am I going to do to deal with the share price? I think the share price will follow the success that's going to continue because it's embedded in who Thungela is and what Thungela does.
But for the moment, the coal
Yeah.
price is not fantastic. The rand is strong, so there's also an
Yeah.
external environment which
Correct.
is your reality. No?
Correct, and that, of course, is a second side to this. There are things that we control, and there are things we don't control. But here's the reality about the price. Reference what I said earlier, don't mistake the current softness of price, which obviously has driven the share price where it is, for a structural change. What that means is read that the price is going to come back, and because a couple of things need to happen in the market. One, of course, supply discipline will come back in. We know that the drivers of the current short-term price issues start from, security concerns, from the war in Ukraine, and of course, getting countries putting a lot of effort within the countries to produce coal, stockpiles rising, and and then the tariffs coming in, and of course, the steel in China flooding the market, and therefore the pull from India in terms of their sponge steel. All of those factors play into the softness, but all of those are short-term. We already have seen China closing some mines in China, and we've already see from the reports, Woodmac and others, that you're starting to see a lot of those mines that were opened in times when prices are good. Seaborne is now at lower than those prices. So at some point, supply discipline is going to come. Mines that are underwater today, and I think they quoted quite a number, I cannot remember it now. So supply discipline itself must still come. So the natural cycle and fluctuations of supply and demand are going to play themselves into the market, and so prices are going to
Was
come
it
back.
prices that influenced your decision to close Isibonelo?
So all our mines and operations have a life, right? And Isabonelo's life, has a life that it has. And of course, we're a supplier of coal to those who need coal, and when they no longer need our coal, we won't be supplying that coal. But no, price was not the reason.
Okay. I want to go to those people here who don't, they don't drink your Kool-Aid,
Yeah?
but they breathe your air. As coal miners, the narrative has changed suddenly. Not suddenly. It's not like coal must be dead.
Yeah.
But, coal is still a significant contributor to the challenges that the world face.
Yeah.
Square it off us. You've got investors who opt to invest in your company despite what you do to the environment.
And we can start there. Obviously, those investors like the commodity and how the commodity plays through the cycle. And so they invest in it because they see the opportunity. But they also invest in it because there is a future.
Are they having ESG conversations with you in the investor meetings? Are they challenging you on your emissions and your contribution to our carbon footprint and so on and so on?
I think they recognize that we have been consistent in terms of being responsible and in our narrative in terms of ESG. And they see all of the good work that we do. And they don't say to us, don't go spend money on ESG, because they recognize that's a given. I think we need to get to a point. I had somebody say yesterday that, ESG, we probably need to get away from this in a sense of, it's a norm, it's what we do, it's how we do mining. In fact, in South Africa, most of our mining was very responsible and was done responsibly. So of course, let's answer your question. Decarbonization must happen. Coal is a big contributor. But again, let me repeat myself. The world needs to balance its needs. Human development is just as critical. All of the development happening today will not happen if we're not supplying the energy that we need coal. So reliable, affordable source of energy it's not something that we can get away from. What we need to solve for is how that coal becomes cleaner because of how we operate the plants that we do and because of the things that I've said about carbon capture and all of those opportunities.
Ladies and gentlemen, you saw him here first, the soon-to-be unveiled, having been waiting for years, next CEO of Thungela. Moses, thank you very much. Thank you.
Good chatting.
I can now formally acknowledge the arrival of our minister, our deputy minister. I, behind their backs, call them Gwede and Pumzile. To their faces, I have to call them something else, honorable, dishonorable, whatever. I mean, but I do think it's extremely relevant. Of course, I would have wanted the minister here yesterday when we spoke about policy certainty, but as the DG says, they were busy creating policy certainty. So we can't wait for your announcement later today about scrapping of the mad laws and, setting us free and whatever, allowing us to beneficiate. And all those good things will come out, I'm sure, in your speech later. But not surprisingly, it's when coal gets discussed that the coal dinosaur walks in. What can we teach you about coal mining? Nothing. So what are you doing here? You're just disrupting my proceedings, Minister. But I do appreciate you, and I'm glad you're here to disrupt my proceedings. We are going on to talk more coal, and then we are going to get to a coffee tea break, and then we can change gears and talk to interesting stuff. So I'm going to ask, as you guys can see, I go to my notes for the speakers, and then I lose myself completely. That was yesterday. We can't go back there. That's why I don't really prepare, because when I prepare, I really get confused. We are going to ask Ruan Nothnagel, who's the Chief Commercial Officer of Menar. Now, he's not as young as he looks, but he still insists on having slides. So you know how you progress at these conferences. When you come without slides, that's when you've arrived. But we are kind to you, but don't take too much time. I want to put some real questions to the ones that Woeslat hasn't prepared you for.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Right, if we take a look at where we are in South Africa in coal today, about 82% of our current generation comes from coal, with around 12.7% coming from solar and wind. And I'd like to say that as Menar, we don't have anything against wind and solar. In fact, we are looking at our own solar project. Solar makes a lot of sense in certain contexts. For example, our Kangra mine runs mostly during daylight hours. That's where your CMs work. During their night shifts, it's care and maintenance. So it makes perfect sense to put solar up there. But we cannot run our ferromanganese smelter at Kwelamet with wind and solar. We need baseload power for that. Now, furthermore, why hasn't renewables, wind and solar, been added to the South African grid? You can see over the last few years, no new capacity has been added. And the reason for that is quite simple. There's insufficient grid capacity. It's quite a simple problem. You need to build more transmission lines. Those lines are made up of steel and aluminium, or steel and copper. And Netbank estimates the cost of that to be around 390 billion rand over the next 10 years to fund the existing contracted renewable capacity to come online. So 390 billion rand, that's a huge amount of money. We'll see now if Eskom can afford that. So the other problem we have is there's no affordable baseload alternative for coal in South Africa. Nuclear will take too long to build, and like a gas alternative, comes with multinational complexities, also a long timeline, and also it's still a fossil fuel at the end of the day. Right, just having a quick look at where we're going to get 390 billion rand from to fund the grid expansion to bring the renewables online. Because remember, we don't need to fund any grid expansion to bring some of our old coal-fired units online. If you look at Eskom's balance sheet, the gearing ratios, I calculated 4 of them, they're overgeared, right, as it stands. So to gear this balance sheet further, it's probably not advisable. So yeah, the question remains, where's that money going to come from to bring the renewable power online in South Africa? So firstly, thank you. Just a big thanks to Honourable Minister Gwede Mantashe for declaring coal a critical mineral in May 2020 May this year. It
But
was one of the best days of my life.
that's not the picture I sent you. I sent you that ugly picture of him as a unionist toy-toying. What happened?
But I think this was one of the best days in a long time for coal, and sincerely thank you, Minister, for this. Why do I think the Minister has declared coal a critical mineral? And I think it's quite simple. Without coal, we don't have baseload. We cannot power our industry. When I was at university, South Africa's manufacturing sector accounted for 36% of GDP. Today, that's down to 3-4%. You know, we need to reindustrialize South Africa. Very interesting. Spoke to Mr. Silas Zimu. He's the advisor to the Ministry of Energy. The new IRP 2025 that's supposed to be redrafted soon will show that they're no longer retiring coal-fired power plants by 2035, but that's being extended to 2050, which is massive. All right? Woosat spoke to the IDC. They are now willing to fund coal-fired, not just coal-fired power plants, but also coal mines. So the investment horizon is changing. The American banks are funding coal-fired power plants again, and coal mines. This is to power their data centers. The new data centers require about 1 gigawatt of electricity capacity. So we'll talk more on that. Now, what will the IRP 2025 say? Because this is going to be very important, because it's not necessarily about, okay, fine, we can use coal again, but which power plants are you going to refurbish? Which ones are you going to build new ones? How long will that take? And are you going to add the carbon capture technologies, which I think Mr. Mike Teke will speak about up next. He knows a lot about that topic. It is one of the champions of that. Right. Cheap baseload, if we don't have it, we destroy tens of thousands of jobs. Well, currently tens of thousands of jobs are destroyed. These are some of the smelters that are offline. I can further tell you there are 30 plus companies in KwaZulu-Natal that mine anthracite that are standing. Every single one of them have spoken to me. Every single one has declared Section 189s. Over 30,000 jobs lost because we do not have cheap base loads to power our smelters. So the smelter sector down, all those jobs are gone. The anthracite sector closed. All the mines are closed. There's over 1 million tons of anthracite stock sitting in KwaZulu-Natal that cannot go anywhere. And it's going to start burning in the next 6 months. So it's just really simple. You don't burn coal to make cheap baseload. You just destroy people's lives in South Africa. Right, now I think one of the fundamental mistakes the world made is they underestimated the amount of electricity that the world would require. After World War II, you had the nuclear arms race. Then you had the Cold War, where you had the space race. And today, it's the energy race. And you can see what Trump is doing. He's saying, burn coal, I don't care, do whatever you need. We need more electricity, we need data centers, we need to keep up with China. Because the next race is the energy race, which is the AI race, and then you're going to get into quantum computing, which requires exponentially more power as well. So if you're not part of the energy race, you're going to be left in the Stone Age. Now, we have to talk about this. Like I said, I do like wind and solar, but if you look at the ratio, if you build 34 gigawatts of solar, you only get 43 terawatt hours of solar power. With 11 gigawatts of coal, you can get 180 terawatt hours of power. So it's a ratio of 1 to 1.2 and 1 to 16. So just realistically speaking, if you want to bring power into your country, coal or other fossil fuels is it's a much quicker way to do it. And you need, for renewables, because it only runs a portion of the day, you're not efficiently utilizing your grid, because for a big part of the 24-hour cycle, you're not using the grid that you've spent a lot of money on building. Now, if you look at where the world stands, firstly, when I worked in India, we did a regression analysis between GDP growth per capita and electricity consumption per capita. And there was a 0.96 R squared, which is a almost perfect correlation, which is very rare in the real world. What it means is, for economic growth to happen, you need electricity consumption. It's that simple. GDP growth and electricity consumption walk hand in hand. So for economies to grow, you need cheap electricity, all right? And if you look at where the world is, the world's demand per capita is only 3.8 megawatt hours per capita, with the likes of Canada, United States, Korea, Japan, who've burnt coal for hundreds of years, that, you know, they're the growing economies. The rest of the world still needs to grow into being able to afford more expensive forms of energy. All right, now if you look at, very few people I think realize this, South Korea and the United States, if you look at the right-hand side, their emissions per person, per capita, is way above the rest of the world. So yes, some of the biggest overall emitters are the developing countries, but they need to do this in order to grow their economies. It's just a simple mathematical problem, right? So the world's at 1.8 tons of carbon dioxide per capita, whereas US, South Korea is at over 5. Coal demand has never been higher, and it will continue to grow. This is what happened with increase in coal generation last year. India is commissioning 92 gigawatts of new coal-fired power. It's announced, the deals are signed, the coal agreements are signed, 92 gigawatts by 2032. But the government has committed, guaranteed that they will fund up to 100% of the carbon capture technology. So the Indians, who were the leaders, along with China, of the renewables, they've run out of the ability to power their economy with wind and solar, switching back to coal, but promising that they will capture the carbon. Just again, this is sort of the global leaders in coal. You can see it's the poorer countries that have the highest share of coal generation. They need to climb the GDP curve, and the only way you can do that again is with cheap power. You can see on the left-hand side there, the emissions intensity has come down due to carbon capture technologies and the addition of wind and solar in the global energy mix. But total emissions, unfortunately, are still climbing, and we need to get this down. And I think the only realistic way to increase the pace of the reduction of emissions per capita is to spend more money and more focus on carbon capture technologies, which again, Mr. Mike Teke will take us through, I'm sure. Now, another thing that no one ever talks about is in periods where there's demand destruction, like we saw in COVID, you can switch off coal. You can switch off your fossil fuels. And then when that destroyed demand comes back, there's always excess demand because the world makes up for the demand it lost. And in those cases, it's fossil fuels that give the extra energy to the world in order to recover. Renewables cannot do that. You cannot ramp them up over and above what their capacity is, right? So it's always, historically, as you can see in 2011, 16, 21, it's the fossil fuels that brings the world back out of a slump. All right, so this is the last slide. So the world forecasts a 3.5% per annum electricity growth. There's just not enough renewables on the way to meet that demand. The whole world is behind on its grid expansion. America is 4 times behind its pace to bring the renewables on grid, which is why Trump made his decision. China is 6 times behind their pace. India is 10 times behind their pace. So the whole world's competing for the aluminium and the copper and the steel in order to build the transmission lines. And because of the energy race, they just can't afford to delay. And that's why coal and other fossil fuel-based electricity will keep growing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ruan. Thank you. Now you've given us even more times for a conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
Be kind to this believer in coal.
Yeah, I'll try.
The first question, do you believe some of the stuff you just said?
I do, actually.
Okay, now over to you.
Well,
Now.
if you believe
you
it,
take
then,
it from there.
Yeah, if you believe it, then, and I think you've told a very compelling story with facts and figures and numbers, and logically makes sense, right? But my question to you is, if you're to try and kind of put together a narrative of what a resilient and sustainable future looks like for coal, how would you describe that?
I would say you need to spend a lot of R&D on extremely effective carbon capture technologies, which are available. You can capture 99% of emissions from coal.
Okay.
And I don't understand why the world has not put more focus on that. Well, in fact, if you look at I saw an article yesterday, the world is forecasting to spend $80 billion on carbon capture technologies. So I'm saying keep bringing the wind and renewables, but in the meantime, focus on capturing that carbon emissions. Then you'll have, because it's not expensive. It makes it very extremely cheap, and I think that's the future.
Okay.
In a previous session, one of the questions said, but we don't have the geological formations for that. Now, I know there are some tests and experiments being done, but does South Africa have the right geology to do the carbon capture? I'm taking it we're talking about the underground carbon capture in that case.
I'm not sure, actually. The carbon capture that you're going to need to be doing, you're going to need to start at the power stations. You're going to need to start investing there. But I'm not sure if I don't think there's been any focus has been put into it. And I think I would hope to see it as part of the IRP 2025 redrafted, where they are extending the life of the coal-fired power plants to 2050. I'd love to see an inclusion of how are we going to capture carbon when we burn the fuel.
Okay. So just going along that train of thinking, would you suggest then that a lot more kind of external partnership with some of the technology development and providers would be key to that? Or should it be the coal mining houses themselves who would do that R&D to explore technology that would support and enable carbon capture?
I think the answer is really simple. India and China are the leaders in carbon capture technology. India is South Africa's largest customer for coal. They purchase half of our coal to make steel. And they're the leaders. They are the biggest coal-fired power plant builders. Let's learn from them. Let's give their government a call. Our government can speak to their government, and they can assist us. And they will probably provide the technology for us, because it's manufactured in India itself.
Sure.
Along with the solar panels in any case, which we buy from them.
So in the absence of carbon capture, and I've in the past said this is one of these things I've heard about for 40 years, and I'm still waiting to see it, but who knows. So I'm a bit of a cynic, but in the absence of that, aren't we just admitting that we are mispricing the social cost of coal? And isn't that why then Europe comes with carbon border tax adjustments, and then when we price coal correctly, is it still a viable energy source?
Well, let me ask you this.
No, I'm not here to be honest.
No. I would say, what happens if you switch? If you switch 30% of the coal-fired power off in South Africa today, or in the world, what happens to the global economy? Completely tanks. You don't have the luxury of switching off coal.
So let's bank that. I mean, I don't think you're going to find many South Africans, perhaps apart from the ones living in Cape Town, who think we can go without coal-fired power stations today. Yes, statement of fact. But we need to deal with the impact of coal mining and coal-fire stations.
Well, the thing is, coal is cheap, and that's why it drives an economy, and that's why the world runs off it. If you make it more expensive, you're just going to destroy the economies. So carbon taxing coal is not the answer. Take that, force coal-fired power plants to install the latest and greatest emissions technology to capture the carbon. I think that's the answer, and make them spend that money, but don't tax coal and complicate and make coal a more expensive commodity, because then you're just going to increase the price of energy.
Can I ask the other questions which want to take us to Menar? And Menar stepping into power-intensive businesses, or plan to.
Yes.
Just give us the background of that. So and that is dependent on some arrangements with Eskom, is it?
100%.
Just unpack for us your plans
sure.
in the.
I'd love to.
Is it manganese?
It's a ferromanganese smelter.
Ferromanganese,
so
of course,
we acquired in partnership with Mtiso, Mr. Kibisi Jonas. We acquired the metalloy smelters. It has a capacity of 500,000 tons per annum. Now, to give you an idea, the global ferromanganese seaborne supply is 1.3 million tons per annum. So we could easily supply over a third of the world's seaborne ferromanganese. If we had the right electricity price, we can start those units up within the next year or two. And that's how simple it is. And we would also employ thousands of people. We have manganese mines as well. We would open manganese mines to supply that. We've got anthracite mines. We'd supply the anthracite into that plant. So we've already purchased the entire value chain. in order to industrialize South Africa. That's what we do at Menar and Quellamet. We want to be at the forefront of reindustrializing South Africa. All we need is a cheaper electricity price.
And so, if you've got all these things, why is it that China can then produce ferromanganese cheaper than you?
They get 60 cents per kilowatt hour for their smelters.
So it's Eskom's
It's the
fault.
electricity price.
Yes, I would say. That's a very loaded question. I do apologize.
We've got the chair of Eskom coming later, so I'm just going to say to him what you said.
Yeah.
I would say it's a simple fix. Get the policy right. I think the IRP 2025 will be drafted, circulated for comment. The coal-fired power stations will be allowed to stay open. I think the tricky one is going to be which units are you going to bring back online, because each power station has different coal specs that it can burn, right? For example, you've got Arnold needs a high CV spec, then Medupi's a 19 CV, and Letabo is a 16 CV. Then you've got to find the coal. Who's going to supply? So to give you an idea, if you restart all the smelters in the country tomorrow, it requires an extra 5 gigawatts of power. That's 25 million tons per annum of coal. Okay? So which 5 gigawatts, which 10 units are you going to bring back online? How long will it take to refurbish them? And where are you going to get the coal from? Who's got the coal at a cost-effective rate close by? So the problem is, even if you sort out policy and you've circulated how long will it actually take? So we're behind. We need to make the decisions quickly, and then we need to get started. Because I don't know. I doubt that if you start all 58 smelters that the country has tomorrow, that there would be enough electricity.
So you make this narrative, we have to start more coal-fired power, those things, coal power stations, can I call it that, whatever it's called, coal power stations. But why can't we just do more renewables? Why can't we just supply that through renewables? Because the baseload exists.
Yeah, so the renewables can't get onto the grid. So to give you an idea, so as you saw in the presentation, for the last 3 years, no new renewables has been added to the grid. And it's a simple matter of there's no distribution capacity for them. There's no wires for them.
So is it going to be either grid or coal power stations? Because then I know what I vote for.
Yeah, exactly. So like I said, Nedbank says 390 billion rand to build the 14,000 kilometers of distribution wires, okay? Last year we built 35 kilometers.
No, listen, that we are behind, I think that is
we'll never catch up because we're competing for the same aluminium and copper as the rest of the world to bring their renewal. So it's a massive race for these commodities. If you, look, you should be bullish aluminium and copper for sure, just basis the energy race that's going on. Yeah.
Will Menar, in the end, put their monies where their mouths are and build your own coal power station? When is that happening?
We already own a 50 megawatt gas-fired power station, which will start up soon. And then, we'd love to buy some of Eskom's power stations, to be honest. Yeah, we'd love to.
Putting it out there,
yeah,
right?
Just putting it out there. And I think that's the way forward. We've got a lot of coal reserves right next to the coal-fired power stations. We're happy we do that.
So when you sit here and you talk about buying Eskom's power stations, I'm sure it's not for a rand. I'm not sure what a power station should cost, R1 billion, $1 billion. So talk to me about, is that within the financial ability of Menar?
Absolutely. Yeah. You don't just have to use your own money. There are companies that will fund.
They will support you.
No, that's pretty much the biggest part of my job.
Yeah.
And it's not hard.
Yeah.
Trust me, there's money for that. It's just the policy just needs to be clear. So once you've got the license and you've got an offtake with government, you're taking sovereign risk. Who wouldn't take that? It's not hard to fund. Yeah.
Talk to us a little bit around how Menar is approaching the talent environment, and specifically, if you think, and I think Moses spoke about the mining industry being seen as a dirty industry. When I was kind of coming up in my studies, I left university and went straight into a mining company. Mining has lost its allure. The coal industry seems a little bit more dirty than the rest of the mining sectors. How is Menar, looking at talent acquisition, growing a pipeline of young people who are going to come in and kind of, grow the business and continue to accelerate some of the growth that you're looking
That's
at?
an excellent question, and I'm glad I can actually answer it. So there's two parts to this. There's the community. You have to develop your communities around your mines. It's incredibly important, right? It's also more sustainable because if you develop, it's easier. It's better to employ people from around your mines.
Yep.
Otherwise, you'll lose them eventually. So we do that. We spend a lot of money on training. And then we also engage with the universities in South Africa and do internships, and we have open days. And we were actually very surprised at the turnout from the university, the young university students. I would not say that it did not look to me like they saw coal as a dirty space.
Sure.
Yeah,
Okay.
we saw a lot of excitement for it. So we're pretty hopeful. There's a lot of enthusiasm for the coal space from the universities and from the communities.
So the 20% of the audience that don't buy into this coal story of you and I have made lots of comments, and I just want to acknowledge the comments. I ask people to put questions, but they insist on making comments because they are triggered. The challenge with carbon capture and storage is the cost estimates are in excess of $1 billion, and then there's continued OPEX, and that's why it may never make sense for South Africa. Fahima says a recent study by Ember indicated that China and India are leading the green energy transition. Fossil fuel generation from these nations are falling. Climate impact is now and evident. So this is a case of profitability over sustainability. So you require a 50% drop in power prices for the smelters to be viable. I think that will help, won't it? You are externalizing too much impact onto society and businesses with your industrialized South Africa. It's obviously a banker speaking. They don't think they need industrialization. Renee Hochreiter, just a comment, 85% of all power generated today is by coal, oil and gas. Only 5% is renewables. I don't know if that's true, but Renee is a factual guy. For renewables to take to replace that 85% will take much longer than Bernard's and my grandkids will live, and so on, and so on. And I'm just saying, I mean, so we interrogate and we test, and there's obviously people who say, yeah, in the end, this sounds like profit over sustainability. But I thought it was an extremely useful and valuable input.
Thank you.
And as I say, we really appreciate your slides. Next time, as you can see,
Yes.
I will have a soft person next to me to be
Yes.
kind to you. Thank you for
so much,
joining.
and thank you for your time. I appreciate the
Thank you.
opportunity.
Thank you very much. Ruan. Thank you.
Good to meet you.
For me, the discovery of the conversation was Menar has got unlimited funding.
Yes.
I am so glad I've got Bushlat on speed dial. I am going to talk to him about some of my own plans now next. Now, the man who is the new ugly face of coal, he is not scared to engage on either coal or Seriti. They used to be coal miners. They are now this green monster that generates wind energy or something. Ladies, gentlemen, the one and only, Mr. What's your name again? Teke.
Can I sit there?
Mike Teke,
Mike.
come join us.
Hi, Mike.
How are you?
Good to see you again.
Why don't you do a better introduction of him? Let me just see, is Seriti a sponsor?
It
Yeah,
is.
yeah, okay, be nice to him. Okay, be
Yeah.
nice to him. Just nice to him.
Good to be sharing the stage with you again, Mike.
Thank you. Thank you.
Looking forward to the conversation, and congratulations on your chairmanship of FutureCoal.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully we'll see a lot of advancements with you in the season. Tell us a little bit more about the outlook from a FutureCoal perspective in terms of the global energy mix and the role that you as a collective see coal playing into the future as part of the energy sources.
So I took over as the chairman of FutureCoal 2 months ago, and I consciously understood what it is that we have to achieve. And the strategy with coal is, it's either you shut down FutureCoal and forget about it, it doesn't
Yep.
exist, the old World Coal Association, or you advance the story of coal
Yeah.
to ensure that the world understands it. So we took over, and the strategy is clear that, one, we understand that the journey that we have to traverse is, whilst we talk just energy transition, the conversation should not be coal versus renewables,
Yeah.
which a lot of people spend a lot of energy. Shut these coal-fired power stations, get rid of coal, and then that side you get other people who are saying, we don't want renewables, we don't believe in them, they are intermittent, they are not reliable. That's not the conversation. FutureCoal is saying, let's understand factually and globally that coal will still be here for a long period of time. As other countries and most countries are transitioning, coal will continue to have a role to play. That is why then we developed a strategy where we talk about sustainable coal stewardship. That journey of sustainable coal stewardship is to talk about pre-combustion of coal before you, and then combusting the coal and post-combustion. We know that we are involved in that entire value chain in terms of coal, mining coal, burning of coal at power stations and post.
Yeah.
So the strategy is clear that the members, the companies or the groupings that belong to FutureCoal understand that journey that way. We were fortunate that when it happened at the time when the agenda was changing with quite a number of these new organizations. I'll call them new organizations, which were started as a result of the whole story of net zero emissions.
Yes.
You remember there was the Net Zero Banking Alliance, which was started by big banks talking about the Net Zero Banking Alliance to be responsible. And those zero emission journeys they were talking about, strategies, was not to fund coal.
Yeah.
Anything that has to do with coal, don't fund it. Right now, that organization or structure called Net Zero Banking Alliance is gone now. They've shut it down and they've moved on. Am I celebrating that? No, I'm not. But I'm saying, let's come to our senses and understand that the energy mix, that's going to make the world progress faster and make the world grow and countries benefit out of that in terms of economic growth, job creation, human development, accommodate the fact that base load is important and coal still plays an important role in providing that base load. That's the strategy.
Yeah.
Can I ask, because I could see why July became the, whatever is it, the chairman,
Chairman.
president,
Chairman.
chairman,
Yeah.
because he is coal, only coal, obsessed with coal, ugly face of coal, I could get that. You must be a progressive in that organization, because you talk about coal and not
Yes.
coal at all expense, or, I mean, your own company is an example.
Well, I'll talk about that,
Yeah,
yes.
but you talk about, are you,
Human progress is going to be human progress. Let's start with the the vehicle industry, okay? You have big brands, you've driven BMWs, Mercedes-Benzes. Those companies are not saying to you, no, we're not interested in electric EVs. We're not interested, we're going to focus on internal combustion engines. No. They're advancing, they are producing a lot of EVs. Some of those companies are saying by 2035, we will be without an internal combustion engine. So we are progressive as well. We say, don't castigate coal and say, shut these mines, shut these coal-fired power stations, have people who visit the mines and worry about coal dust and want to go and shower. Coal mining will continue to be here. The profits we've generated out of the coal mines that we've mined as Seriti, we're proud to invest them in renewable energy because we believe in the story that we will have coal and renewables as we progress. But don't say, shut these 15 coal-fired power stations in South Africa. My concern right now is globally, we tend to listen to the dictates of other countries. I'll give you an example. There was a time in Europe when we were given instructions, sort of, being told that shut these coal-fired power stations, it will give you money to shut them down. And then we follow. When these Net Zero Banking Alliance stories happen, then we really follow. Yesterday, there was an announcement, or 2 days ago, Germany is investing 7 billion in promoting carbon capture. And they are encouraging companies and organizations and businesses to
and
come.
that would be euros, I assume, 7
It's
billion
euros, 7 billion
Yeah,
euros
yeah.
that you must invest in CCS. You'll see the world will follow. When the story of CBAM came, well, a carbon border adjustment mechanism came up. No, we must be careful and adjust to those. Right now, there is Net Zero Asset Managers Initiative that is saying we're shutting down. Same applies with insurance. On the insurance side, we were told nobody wants to insure you as coal miners. Now, can we talk?
Thabi, before we nice to him again. You know, this dude is a wannabe engineer. He's not really an
I'm not,
engineer.
yes.
And, but you must see when he takes pictures of his wind farm,
Yes.
things going up.
Yes.
It's like he's hyperventilating like a young man. So take us into your current progress. I mean, you're actually building wind farms as we speak.
Bernard, you have,
And
a,
you are
problem,
quite
you have a
excited
problem
by
of
it.
pigeonholing people, but let's get you to that. So, Seriti, when we bought the first phase of Seriti was acquisition of the coal assets from Anglo, as we know. Second phase was acquisition of the assets from South 32, and because we wanted to be an exporter, so we had a good suite of assets. And then we wanted to venture into renewables, and we bought into a company called WindLab, a company led by a gentleman called Peter Venn. And Peter is the CEO of Seriti Green. He works with us. I'm the chairman of Seriti Green. And we are building 111 wind turbines.
111.
111
Yes,
wind
Donald
turbines
Trump's
in
gonna
the
hate
town of Bethel, Morganzone, and Darvel. And those 111 wind turbines, plus some solar, plus battery storage, will give us 900 megawatts into the
900.
grid. 900 megawatts. We have just completed the main transmission station. The main transmission station is completed, and we're going to hand it over to Eskom to make sure that it's part of the grid. And then we continue. As I speak to you, we are at wind turbine number 12. And those wind turbines are transported from Richards Bay through Mpumalanga, through Natal and Mpumalanga into those towns. It's happening right now. It's not something we're talking about. And we believe that by 2027, 28, we will be at
And
that level.
underground, I mean, so is a windmill, it's ugly, eh?
Wind
But how
turbine.
does,
Wind
it impact,
turbine.
how
Wind
does it
turbine.
impact on the people of Darvel? I mean, how do
In
they...
what way?
No, for me, it's ugly. Eh? Ugly is the beauty.
So
in
the
eyes.
first- the
How
first
does it
import-
impact on the people? How do they experience it? It's really
So the
question.
first thing they've experienced is that those towns were hit hard by a high unemployment rate, number one. Number two, it's mainly farming. You find that it's agriculture. So they were used traditionally to mining jobs, to agricultural jobs. Right now, we've negotiated with the farmers who are working very well with us. We're cooperating. And we're part of the ecosystem now, where we put a wind turbine on a farm, and the farmer can still access the farm and still plant around that area. And the communities are benefiting with employment as we build, because this build is going to take longer, up to 27, 28, 29. Number two, if you can see the foundations that are built or developed, where the steel industry, the cement industry, the construction industry benefit out of the activities that are happening there. So the communities there are benefiting from an employment point of view, economic activity that is happening there. Very soon the town of Morganzone is going to see some developments, which is an investment from us as Seriti. And I believe if the conversation was the conversation that said, no, it's coal versus renewables, it would be a different story. Let me take it further. 68 kilometers from Morganzone, exactly towards a town called Carolina, we're building a coal mine. So we're continuing with coal. We're not selling any of our coal assets. We are going to continue mining coal, and we'll have renewables in our portfolio. That is why we are an energy business.
And so your investment approach then across both renewable and coal mines, is it a balanced approach where it's kind of, you'll do a 50-50 investment approach, or are you differentially investing in one over the other?
No. As opportunities arise, as projects become sort of mature for investment, we do.
Yeah.
We're not using any mathematical ratio to say it's 50% or 40%.
Okay.
And we need to consider the fact that as an investor in coal and an investor in renewables, what we are studying very closely is the global energy mix, which, as Mike Teke, I refer to that global energy mix as something versatile, that any country will not suffer as a result of that mix. So we'll have coal, we'll have renewables as in wind, solar, and in South Africa we've got nuclear with Quebec. Maybe we can invest in more nuclear.
Yeah.
But we are not saying it's coal versus renewables.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. And how are you viewing the opportunities for talent to work across the spectrum?
The
from
talent.
The talent.
Okay.
To transition from potentially having a career path maybe in the coal mining industry, and as interest picks up in renewables, the ability to transition one's career, pivot one's career into renewables. Is that opportunities you're providing to your talents as well?
There are experts within Seriti who we brought in to help us build these wind turbines, who have done so in the Western Cape and the Eastern Cape, who've done a successful job in developing this. But internally within Seriti, there are several employees who've left the coal mining industry, our coal business, from the mines. And now they are engineers, some electrical engineers who applied for roles, and they are enjoying it at Seriti Green. In fact, when I meet those people, life has changed. Probably they have adopted what Bernard has said, that they no more have coal dust in their faces.
I don't believe everything I say, but sometimes I do. And I mean, I think it's very important because this transition is real. I mean, you are shutting down coal mines. You've done a restructuring recently. It's perhaps a year ago now. But I mean, so even in your company, there's a real world, there's coal prices, and perhaps take us back to, in your coal division, are you done with your restructuring? Where are you with that, and how are you adjusting to the current coal environment?
I think firstly, let me clarify that by saying we never said we're shutting down any mines. We were restructuring. Why? Because we anticipated that the coal prices you're seeing today, it's something that we were prepared for. You cannot manage the exchange rate, Bernard. You cannot manage coal prices. You wake up in the morning, you're a price taker. The API for today is X, and that's what it is. What we do on our side is to make sure that we are the best miner. And that's what we did last year. We restructured the mines. We believed that they were high cost and they were not going to survive. Had we not done the restructuring we did, Bernard, some of the mines would find themselves in trouble today, and probably in a situation where we face business rescue. But we were quick to restructure those. And having restructured those now, they can be resilient, even if the coal price is where it is today.
And in such a restructuring, after 30 years of us doing it post-democracy, do you think we do it in a way that we leave the communities in a place that there's life beyond after the mining, or is it still a
That's a
disaster?
good question. My biggest worry, Bernard, has always been, you know, in mining, you have that language where you are told that there are hard skills and soft skills. You remember that? So they say soft skills, it's HR, it's safety, it's communities. I have a problem with that. There's no soft skill. There's no soft skill. Okay, everything is hard. Profitability is hard. Your shareholder, if you don't give them profit this year and a dividend, next year they'll come back for you or you get fired. That's hard. When people lose their lives at your mines, when there's a fatality at the mine, it's hard to go and face a family and tell them about their lost member. If you retrench people, which is a painful exercise, it's a hard conversation. So to answer your question, Bernard, we worry about the future of our mines. We worry about what happens post. We don't want to leave ghost towns. And that is why in Seriti, 5% of the business is owned by the community, 5% by employees. And then the rest is us. But when we get those dividends, we try and make sure that we invest in those communities so that we ensure that one day we don't leave ghost towns. It is a big worry for us.
I yesterday tried to engage a conversation on collaboration with the Platinum CEOs. I was unsuccessful, I think. The audience can judge. I do think there's space for collaboration in the coal industry. I mean, you share any town you're in with other coal players. You also overlap with Eskom and even Sasol. Do you think as an industry we do enough of that? Because otherwise we leave little failures instead of a collective success, perhaps.
There's a history to that. Historically, people who used to say, and I find it so ugly and disappointing where you go into a township. I don't know who said black people want halls. Every time we're obsessed, let's build a hall for this community. I don't know why.
The Seriti Hall.
Yeah. And you want to put your brand there. And then let's build a clinic. The power of collaboration is that you can build big, sizable projects that could help a community and take them from one level to the next. And some of the projects can create jobs for the future. So collaboration, to answer your question, yes, we collaborate with Exaro. We work with Sibanye, with Thungela. We work a lot with Eskom itself, and we collaborate with them in towns that are next to the mines that we operate. And it's useful because we can share resources, we can share responsibility and costs.
And an area which has really become of interest to me is on the procurement side. Do you think we can re-industrialize Witbank by procuring together and therefore smarter and therefore create more viable businesses, not just the
Yes,
startups?
there are opportunities, but let's be careful not to create expectations and talk about, I'll give you an interesting example. Let's be realistic that there are certain things that we can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's take the example of, you can't build a motor to power your conveyor infrastructure. They come from certain parts of the world, and some of them because of technology. Not that I underestimate South Africa, but it's the level of investment that you can't just say, I'll go into a small place and say, can you build this today for me? There are people who are capable of doing certain things. But yes, there are opportunities in procurement, social development, community development, hugely. And with the government as well.
But do you think collectively, as players in those communities, your voice would carry quite a bit of weight in actually lobbying some of these international manufacturers or suppliers to localize some of that manufacturing capability within those communities you operate in? Is that something that perhaps as players
It's
could
real, it
investigate?
can happen and it does happen.
Yeah.
But let's be realistic, we are in a country, and our country right now is facing a challenge of huge unemployment problem. We need to deal with unemployment. We need to create jobs. What I mean by that is we need to have the confidence of investing in our country. My worry is developing that confidence to say, if I put my money here, will I get a return out of it? And when I say a return, I'm not talking about profits, but I'm talking about sustainable business model into the future. So there are opportunities for that,
Sure.
Mike, you and I do from time to time chat about the challenges that our industry face and our country face. Whether you like it or not, you've now gravitated up to be one of the industry leaders and an elder in our industry. So, you're getting old, dude. That's what I'm saying politely.
It's fact,
Getting flippin' old.
But the problem is I can't retire.
No, you can't retire. And you will never catch up
No,
with me
I
in
won't
age
retire.
either.
No.
But let's talk about our industry. Yesterday we spoke about the normal stuff, We're going to talk about Eskom, Transnet, they affect you. We talk about policy certainty. We talk about the issues that will create an environment where people come and invest in South Africa. Just reflect. Just give us your thinking on that. I know you're an active participant in all of the fora, but share with this audience your views on that.
By its very nature, I have found that governments globally, there's an element of bureaucracy with them. What I mean by that, in my office, if you walked in, you'll get a decision within 5 minutes. I would have loved a department, any department, water, minerals, resources, land, not to take me through 5 or 6 or 7 steps. I would have loved to see a quick turnaround when it comes to decision making. I would have loved to be involved as a player in some of the legislative conversations, so that whatever legislation is developed is not only biased towards the regulator only. What I mean, let's sit in a room, is this practical, can it work in a world of entrepreneurship? So it's speed of decision making, it's to just the red tape, as Roger Baxter we used to talk about smart tape, say how quick to get rid of this red tape. Number 3, it's how do we, not that you bypass bureaucracy, no. So make sure that you follow legislative rules, you understand the laws of the country, you respect rule of law, but let's be quick, let's shorten it, and let's make sure that the decision making is, instead of 3 months, can we do it in 6 days or 5 days, so that it can encourage me to invest more, quicker and faster.
And obviously, all of these, I'm just also looking at the questions from the audience now. All of these things obviously always sit in a political context. There's the South African political context. Let's not go there. Let's leave that to wherever, the next ANC conference or whatever chamors they come up with. Okay. Who knows what? I'm not qualified. But the geopolitics Coal is a beneficiary of the current chaos. I mean, the negative trends for coal has been pushed back. You alluded to some of them, the sort of alliance to not
Yes,
invest in coal mines. Trump's madness when he speaks sense, sometimes it sounds like he's on your side of the equation. How's geopolitics impacting a
You know,
business like Seriti?
it's an interesting thing. I was reflecting on the prime ministers and presidents right now. I said, Canada has got Mark Carney. Australia has got Anthony Albanese. Powerful prime ministers. Then you've got the president in the United States, President Trump. And I'm saying to myself,
And
what
what
happened?
about, who's South Africa's president?
President
We're not
Cyril
sure.
Ramaphosa.
Oh, he has not been recalled.
But now let me, and I'm talking globally, you asked me about that. The interesting thing about life, I'm saying to myself, what happens in 2028 when Trump leaves and the Democrats win? I'm giving an example, okay? There is Gavin Newsom, there is Pritzker, there is this young man in Maryland, Baltimore, Westmore. They're strong Democrats, they're well loved by a lot of people. There's Josh Shapiro, there's Mark Kelly in Arizona. Let's say one of those Democrats win. The trajectory changes, right? They go back to green energy and say, shut this coal-fired power station. The noise starts again. And we are told that we are irrelevant. What if Marco Rubio starts to challenge and maybe he's the one who wins the elections or J.D. Vance becomes the president? Does the journey continue? That's the conversation we should be realistic about. And then the second one, if the war ends in Russia, between Ukraine and Russia, Russia comes back and things become normal. They produce more coal, put coal into the markets. India starts to buy. What happens? I do factor that into my life and the life of my country and my continent. But the big story is for Africa. 54 countries. I still believe there's a huge opportunities for us to roll out massive energy projects. And coal must play a role in that.
I stole a bit of your time. I'm going to go to the audience questions, but you feel free to interrupt.
Sure. No problem.
This is from Fahima. You know Fahima?
Yeah, she's there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Does Seriti have any ambitions to list on the JSE?
No.
Moving on. Thanks for asking, Fahima.
Direct.
This question came up in some of the previous coal speakers, so I do want to put it. It's an anonymous question. Isn't coal a commodity like asbestos that is at the end of its life?
I think asbestos, you're comparing two wrong things, two different things. It's not apple to apple, honestly. Coal plays an important role. Most of you have had nice coffee and it was hot coffee. And if you can switch off these lights now, you'll see how gloomy it becomes.
And the role coal plays. But
And
maybe
there are 15 coal-fired power stations that have made ESCOM very profitable.
yeah.
It's coal.
Before you ask your next question, and this ties on this very question that was asked, asbestos versus coal, and your answer to the question on geopolitics. And when you started talking about your role on FutureCoal, you spoke about that forum needing to set the record straight around the narrative for the coal industry. Do you think we've done that? Have you done that? Is there more that can be done to make the message clearer so it's disputable? So if presidency changes in the US and it's the Democrats, that there's a strong narrative that cannot be easily unraveled.
I think it will accelerate our
Yeah.
program to work harder.
Okay.
We haven't arrived. You continue to come across a lot of people who would question the integrity of coal, the credibility of coal mining, the future of coal mining. You know, some of the people are interesting in that they invest in the value chain, in the coal value chain. And their head is below the parapet wall, right? And when you talk about this criticism, they do make the rumblings. But when you walk out of here, they want to talk to you about supplying you with something. Yeah.
Can I ask you, I personally think you've got a great story on renewables. Nice. But I don't hear a compelling case. I don't hear you campaigning for emission reduction.
I have said I support carbon capture and sequestration. The whole story of sustainable coal stewardship. We're saying pre-combustion, this is what we do in mining. Digitization, making sure that our mining methods are progressive, making sure that we embrace technology. With combustion, that's where carbon capture comes in. We're saying invest in that. But then somebody says in Europe, it's too expensive, and we run away from it. Then Germany announces it yesterday and say, no, actually, we want that program. From the 1st of December, each industrial hub or any business must come in, get involved. We have a $7 billion or 7 billion euro program. We follow that. No, I do talk about that. And I'm saying in South Africa, there are power stations where we have an opportunity where we can invest in carbon capture. There is a huge opportunity.
I have been as cynical about hydrogen as I have been of carbon capture. And then I read China is getting serious about hydrogen, and then I think, now it will happen. Cynically. That's how I think nowadays. Where is China on carbon capture?
They are ahead. They are ahead, they are progressing, and they continue to build coal-fired power stations that are progressing. And the story of hydrogen, for me, it's an interesting story.
I know we're not allowed to discuss hydrogen, you and I. Yeah?
Yes.
But I was just making
Where
the
are the
point that
PGM
when
people?
China gets serious about a technology, they just scale it.
It's just, they scale it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They scale it.
Yeah.
I mean, where do we get these wind turbines? All these wind turbines come from China.
Yeah.
Goldwind is delivering them. The solar panels, they come from China. And when it comes to coal-fired power stations, they build more. And then they go renewables as well.
Can I give you a final question to the ugly face of coal? The new ugly face
The new
of coal.
ugly face of coal. Sure. I think my final question to you then is going to be around how Seriti as a business is approaching the adoption of technology to support you on your path, especially in the coal business, right? Along that decarbonization journey. What's your thinking there around the role of
Well, it's
technology?
important. We are digitizing when it comes to our mining operations. Okay,
Yeah.
we are digitizing. I mean, if you can go underground, you'll see how technology has taken over in terms of proximity detection system, in terms of managing safety. Beyond that, on our open cast mines, the whole story of drones is playing an important role in terms of security and others. But the 900 megawatts that we are producing as part of Seriti Green, 155 megawatts of that is going to power the mines. Seriti is an off-taker. So we are going to take care of level 1, level 2, or level 3 of emissions.
Yes.
Yes.
Thabi, thank you for bringing intelligent side to the conversations.
Thanks for having me, Bernard.
Mike, it's really a pleasure
Thank
just engaging with you, hearing your views. And keep on promoting responsible, greener use of coal. It's in our country's interest. So good luck with that. Thank you very much. And thank you, Thabi.
Thank you, Tom.
For those of you who were not here, thanks, Mike. For those of you who were not here yesterday, you will see this little archive tag on your what is this? On your lanyard. If you've got a phone that was invented or built in the last 20 years, it should pick it up, give you a link, and it takes you to the archive of all of the past conferences. They're not all populated because it's quite a big job. But for example, the London Indaba is on there, the Coal and Energy Transition Day is on there. Yesterday's interview with I forgot his name, Duncan. You see, I think of you, Grant, now, but Duncan is, for example, on there. And so it just becomes a place where you can, in time, catch up. Obviously, as we develop it, it will become searchable and it will become more. But for the moment, it's just an archive. So for those of you who wonder what that zero bullshit thing around your neck is, it's firstly a reminder, don't speak bullshit, And secondly, it links you all the way through to the archive. So thank you very much. That was about as much coal as I can stomach for a day. And yet, without coal and coal power stations, there is no South African economy. That's a reality. That may not be the dream, the future. That's our reality. So thank you very much, everybody. Please engage with the minister, give him shit. If you haven't met our deputy minister, Madam Pumzile, it's good to have you here. We will take the L off your back one day soon. She's a learner. She's in training. Us old people treat young people with disrespect until we are convinced they know what mining is. But it's fantastic to have the whole team here. So let's go for tea. Thank you very much. Thank you.